Hello and welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com immediately following this show today. A special for our PHNX Cardinals diehard open Q&A. I am, of course, Johnny Venerable. He is Brack. It has roughly been 366 days, if we're being technical, since Arizona Cardinal GM Monti Ossenfort took over as the first external executive general manager for this fine franchise in over 30 years. And today, we're going to talk about his wins, his losses, and where this team projects to go, Brack.
Yeah, a gigantic, roaring success going outside the organization, maybe even being not the first option as far as the Arizona Cardinals and their search for their next general manager. There was reports that Ian Cunningham, who's a popular name this offseason, interviewed in Washington to name a few spots. He turned down the gig reportedly, and it actually worked in the Cardinals' favor. I think Monti Ossenfort has been fantastic as their general manager. He absolutely got the assignment as far as what was necessary for this organization. And he's on to step 2 of the rebuild, where he tore this thing down and prepared him for this 2024 offseason. So I'm excited to learn more about Monti Ossenfort, but I also really like what I've seen from the Cardinals GM. And, as you said, a very special PHNX Cardinals. That's what today is, and that's what the member Discord, post show is going to be. And I'm glad that we've got Bronny Venerable here to dress to your nines.
Yeah, I feel like Ossenfort would approve of this kind of attire. He's a brawny guy himself, I feel like. And so, Listen, at the end of the day, lots of good to dive into as it relates to Ossenfort. That's kind of where I want to start. Now, Bo, you put together a quality list, and I would agree with everything that we discussed prior to the show as it relates to what he's achieved. And I don't think you can minimize it by just saying, well, the Cardinals, they won 4 games this year. It's much more than that, and it started this time last year. So if everybody remembers, Ossenfort was hired fairly quickly. Michael Bidwill gave his end-of-the-year speech to Bo and the rest of the media, basically saying, like, no stone uncovered, did some interviews, and I felt like Ossenfort was hired like a week to 10 days after that. But then it was the coaching search that basically engulfed this franchise and this fan base for the better part of, 6 weeks? It was crazy.
It was. We almost navigated the entire pre-free agency offseason without a head coach. It was insane. We got to the end of past the Super Bowl without the coaching vacancy being filled. And, we followed some crazy storylines, one that might have included Broncos head coach, Sean Payton at that point, which hit the climax as far as the Cardinals' pursuit of him from behind I think like a Toyota Corolla that Cam Cox had 12 news cameras out there scoping out Sean Payton and Michael Bidwill. But Monti Ossenfort was a part of that. And he, as soon as he got on the job, he started, kind of giving a token interview to Vance Joseph. But then you would hear like every couple days, like you'd hear 2 to 3 different candidates coming in, from Frank Reich to Mike Kafka to Lou Anarumo to, all the way up until the final candidate was announced that they were going to interview, and reports of it was Jonathan Gannon. And he was somebody that we found out, Monti Ossenfort, going into, I guess, the 2022 season. He understood that, look, he was on deck to become a general manager in the NFL. And in order to maybe secure that job, potential organizations were going to ask him, who's on your short list for head coach? Because it's usually part and parcel as far as GM, likely bringing in his own head coach when he gets the gig, and he wanted to have that. So he identified, potential candidates that upcoming offseason, and Jonathan Gannon was a part of it, despite, what we're going to get into probably in the bad part, the tampering charges that the Cardinals endured, in part of what Ossenfort did and overstepped during the Super Bowl run for the Eagles.
Yeah, and you look back to the coaching cycle of last year, and I would say unequivocally the Cardinals dodged a bullet with Sean Payton. Sean, they won more games this year, but at what cost? The Broncos paid a first-round pick for Sean Payton. Sean Payton in the relationship with Russell Wilson, that imploded. So for Ossenfort to be able to find his head coach and to weed out what works and what doesn't work with Jonathan Gannon, they talked about, okay, we want to emphasize no ego. We want to bring a culture tone setter. And, he didn't make the postseason. He didn't win, 10 plus games like DeMeco Ryan and Shane Steichen. But again, you have to grade on a curve with this franchise given to where the roster was and is right now. Like those other franchises, we all thought that, at the end of the day, the Broncos were going to have more immediate success because of Sean Payton. Now, I didn't think DeMeco Ryans and Shane Steichen were going to have the success that they did, but you have to look at the idea that the Cardinals face the toughest strength of schedule in the NFL this year outside of Cincinnati. So not only are you asking Ossenfort to tackle that with a limited roster that's been mismanaged, but you're also asking Jonathan Gannon to come in and feel comfortable basically gutting this team. Hey, coach what we have on the fly, and then it's about 2024. I can't tell you how many times I was told that privately from people like, hey, we're going to try to win games this year. We're optimistic about the young talent. A lot of rookies are going to play. But at the end of the day, this is going to be about 2024. And the vision has never wavered. Jonathan Gannon and Monti Ossenfort, the unity that they have throughout the course of this past season, last offseason, into this offseason, it's something that it's a breath of fresh air because I don't think it was there with Kliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. I think it was hit or miss with Arians and Steve Keim, Rod Graves, Ken Whisenant. The list goes on and on. Like you feel like if you guys go back and watch the draft segments from the team and all that insight, Gannon is here to coach the players. That's what he does. He doesn't, I can tell you definitively, based on people close to him, he does not mess with personnel. That's the best relationship. Ossenfort knows what Gannon wants and what he doesn't want. He's going to go out and buy the groceries for him.
Yeah, and in their own respective departments, where you've got Monti Ossenfort obviously in the front office, up there in his ivory tower, up there with ownership and working on the roster and being the main architect for that.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan Gannon with the coaching staff and then with the players. I think that both of them do an incredible job as master delegators. I think that that's such a big part of being a coach, an exec in the NFL these days, or any successful, sport operation, right? Organization. I think that you need to have just master delegators. Obviously, you've got your strengths, like Jonathan Gannon's strength is defense and leadership, and Monti Ossenfort is scouting and obviously finding players throughout the league and through the amateur levels and kind of being that guy who constructs rosters. But they also, I'm sure Monti Ossenfort, with Dave Sears, who he appointed his assistant general manager, and what his role and what his scouts roles are, I think he puts them in positions for success and trust what they're doing. And the same thing goes for Jonathan Gannon as far as his position coaches, main coordinators, and Nick Rollis and Drew Petzing and everybody on that coaching staff. He delegates to those guys and puts them in positions to be successful and feeds off that, and the organization succeeds by them doing that.
Mike blowing me grief here with a $2 super chat. Why does Johnny say Ford instead of Fort? I didn't notice that. Ossenfort. You want me to emphasize the T? Ossenfort. Johnny, you picked Dak over K1, too much OGs. Is it going to be like that today? Is that how the show is going to be?
When did you do that? When in Kyler Murray's second game back, you took Dak Prescott, who was dealing at that point, like despite how the Cowboys went out. You couldn't, like, Dak Prescott. I think he's probably going to the NFL awards as a finalist for most valuable player. Right.
Yeah.
But don't let the facts get in the way.
Like, I can't win. It's either I'm too big of a Kyler fanboy or I'm undervalued.
It's interesting. Like when we talk about, when you look at like the Cardinals dodged a bullet with Sean Payton, and some casuals would look at that like that's crazy. Like, this is a team that was knocking on the door of the NFL postseason. It might be a couple plays away, right, from being there and playing meaningful games in January. And then the Cardinals win only 4 games. But man, I would sign up 10 out of 10 times for the direction that the Arizona Cardinals are going. And it's just like, but to Didi's point, it's Kyler versus Dak, and what's the upside? What do we know about Dak, and what we want to see from Kyler Murray? And I think where Kyler Murray still has a tremendous amount of upside, well, I think this Arizona Cardinals roster, even though it's at nearly bare bones outside of the quarterback position and maybe the tackle position and a few others, they can really, especially with great coaching and great leadership from the front office, they can really change things around and get it trending in the right direction consistently for the near future.
What has Dak been the benefactor of since he got to Dallas? The personnel department with the Dallas Cowboys has been borderline elite. They draft really well. I mean, he had Zeke from the moment he got there. The offensive line was a plus unit. He's had multiple good tight ends. He's gone from, he played with Dez Bryant, then he went to, of course, CeeDee Lamb. They traded for Brandon Cooks. That team does a nice job with personnel. They do. Yeah. And the Cardinals are hopefully going to get there. And I think the next topic of discussion as it relates to Ossenfort and how this whole thing can help Kyler Murray is the acquisition subsequently of Dave Sears from Detroit coming over to Arizona. You look at the blueprint that the Lions have. I know it's a trendy thing to say Cardinals are the next Lions, but I mean, they put a plan in place when Dave Sears was there, director of college scouting, where they were going to go after the college elites. And then, oh, by the way, find an Amon-Ra St. Brown on day 3 of the draft, and then go meat and potatoes with Hutchinson and Penei Sewell, trade up for a sweetener and Jamison Williams. Cardinals are very much on that trajectory, all while supporting an older veteran quarterback, Jared Goff, a la Kyler Murray. I think it bodes well for the Cardinals, especially Dave Sear had a little bit of an imprint in last year's draft class, and I think we would all attest to the draft class being very productive. I think they've just scratched the surface with their college scouting. I think this year in particular, I know it's easy to telegraph Marvin at 4 and pick 27, pick 35. They're going to find starters on day 3 of this draft. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've already shown in a short sample size without their guys in place from a scouting standpoint that they can do it. And that's a big part of the I think you add on the good list, right? When you've got the good and the bad. And I want to kind of highlight a couple of those. And we'll start with the good. Monti Ossenfort year 1, the hiring of Jonathan Gannon.
Yep.
The hiring is the man you just mentioned, Dave Sears, and how integral he was in the success and the turnaround of the Detroit Lions and what he's doing here already. I think his ability to make unpopular moves in shedding salaries and not taking on salaries just to retain previous players who are hitting free agency like a Byron Murphy or Zach Allen. What have those guys done as far as really impacting what the Arizona Cardinals' final record was? Zach Allen gives you, a good defensive front player that you seriously lacked, but at the price you would have had to pay him and the impact that he makes as far as the overall defensive performance, I don't know that it gets the Cardinals much more than, another, maybe one more win, 2 more wins. And then you've got, accumulated the draft capital. That was huge. And that came on, draft day and throughout the 3-day process. And then it had a solid 2023 NFL draft. And when we were kind of texting back and forth, you said, aiding Kyler Murray in his rehab and his recovery and giving him and creating the infrastructure for him to really find success and not to have to kind of do it on his own like the previous regime really relied on him to do. And that's foreshadowing on another conversation we're going to have later in this show on his previous head coach.
I think Monti Ossenfort demonstrated immense patience and a foresight to be able to say, my franchise quarterback needs me to protect him, and I'm going to put myself maybe in harm's way of the media to say, listen, because there people were asking Ossenfort about Caleb Williams. You remember that last fall in a presser in July and August, and Ossenfort's like, guys, can we just start the season? And even this podcast, we're guilty of it. Bring Kyler back. Why isn't he playing? They could not have handled, in retrospect, the Kyler Murray situation any better. I mean, you think about how they did it. They walked a tightrope led by Ossenfort and subsequently Gannon. He's going to get 8 games. He's going to knock the rust off. And then subsequently, he's going to play his best football, making people want more, asking for more, the last month of the season. He's 100% healthy now. We didn't play our way out of a top pick, still very much alive for an elite blue chip player, the best non-quarterback in the draft, and Marvin Harrison Jr. And Kyler Murray played the Cardinals out of Caleb Williams, Drake May. I mean, the entire thing, while painful at the time, give credit to Ossenfort. Like, I don't want to discredit Kyler Murray and the job he did kicking ass in rehab. That's all him. But he was also empowered by Gannon and Ossenfort. It's one thing to have Kliff Kingsbury and subsequently Steve Keim stab you in the back time after time and question your work ethic. Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon going to Kyler Murray's Heisman Trophy statue unveiling at Oklahoma, supporting him throughout the course of the offseason, telling him to take his time. Kyler Murray, we had at source, was pushing not even to be put on PUP. Ossenfort said, we're not messing around with that.
Yeah.
You're too big a part of our future. And while we're going to talk about like their misses to find an heir apparent, at least in the intermediate at quarterback, the way they handled Kyler Murray, I thought was fantastic. That brain trust, GM, head coach, quarterback, is lock solid because of the example set by Ossenfort way back when in January.
Yeah, I think also as far as the handling of players internally, the Budda Baker situation, I thought that they did a really good job. Remember how much of a pushover the old regime was? I mean,
yeah.
Like you had Marcus Golden, who had an injury right in the weight room.
Yeah.
He miraculously got better when he signed. He got more money. And DJ Humphries had a stomach issue. And then, he put pen to paper on an extension. And, man, he was back on the practice field the next day. And the players, they just ran that place, right? And anything they wanted, the front office, the coaching staff, either enabled it or they just, dropped down and absolutely did whatever the players asked of them. And I think he set the tone in where he's like, I'm willing to work with you, Budda Baker. Like, I understand your frustration. I mean, don't pin all your frustrations on us. The sins of our predecessors in the former regime, and we know you only have one winning season under your belt since being brought in here since 2017. That's brutal. We understand that, but we have a task at hand too. We got some priorities, and they went through that and checked off those lists, and then they addressed Budda in their own way. And then it just say, you know what? Here's a blank check. We got some extra cash lying around here. You fill this out, whatever you feel is necessary to make you happy. They didn't do that. They found something that got Budda back, because I think they had the confidence that once Budda was back in the building, and Budda had every right to do this, and every player has every right to do this, because in this league where there's not a ton of guaranteed dollars relative to other pro sports leagues and guaranteed contracts, get yours while you can. Budda Baker came to terms with his organization, and it seems like he's happy now. It seems like he's a happy player. So when we look, then we look at the bad. And the bad, it's not overwhelming. And I think when you look at this year, it's not necessarily nitpicking. There's one glaring, I think, not omission, but place where they dropped the ball. But we'll just start with, we'll go kind of just step by step how it happened. The tampering charge was, I think, avoidable.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, what they had to give up if Jonathan Gannon becomes, a star head coach, a 10-year head coach, it's a drop in the bucket. And again, I'm willing to. We talked about giving up a first-round pick for Sean Payton. They did a third-round pick swap with Philadelphia, and then they beat Philadelphia's ass late in the season. Like, it almost cancels each other out. It's almost like Gannon and Kyler Murray's like, Ossenfort, we got your back. But yeah, it was avoidable. But at the same time, like, I'm going to tell you right now, that has happened with other franchises, with other GMs, with other head coaching openings and prospects.
JJ Watt's talking to DeMeco Ryans in his final game, and JJ Watt's saying, "Go win in Houston, baby." Like,
this is the doing of Jeffrey Lurie, and their general manager Howie Roseman, because they were upset that they didn't get Vic Fangio, and then subsequently Jonathan Gannon stole Nick Rallis from them. So they had to complain to the NFL. Like, that's not an opinion. That's a fact. That's what happened. They bitched and complained about Vic Fangio. They were upset about Nick Rallis, and they complained to the league, and they wanted to embarrass the Cardinals, and they embarrassed them on draft night. And then Ossenfort went to work. Like, I I think in the grand scheme of things, sure, we were disappointed at the time. I'm so over that storyline because I think the Cardinals definitely got the upper hand. The pick swap that they had, Garrett Williams, we're confident. Michael Wilson later in the third round. If those guys are stars, who cares? I actually disagree with you, though. I think the handling of the quarterback position outside of
going in
Kyler Murray.
order. I was going in order.
But you said that you thought that was the biggest error that they made last year. I disagree. I think how they
didn't say that.
I thought you said that. Maybe
no.
not.
I was trying to just say we're going in order and timeline. Okay. Sorry.
I would say what happened the following month during free agency, after they hired Gannon and tampered, was the biggest error. They screwed around with the backup quarterback spot, and I think it didn't hamper anybody's production development. It hampered production, though. And they should have paid more for Joshua Dobbs in March. They should have paid for Jacoby Brissett, who was a non-factor in Washington. They put their trust in Colt McCoy, elite human being, great person, not an NFL player anymore. They screwed that up because I think we all knew Kyler Murray was going to miss some time. They clearly knew he was going to miss a lot of time in the form of half the season. Clayton Tune, wasn't fair for him to have to start that game in Cleveland. They should have signed Joshua Dobbs. I have it they regret doing that. They regret how they handled that. And that's why I think very much so they're going to sign a veteran to back up Kyler Murray this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last one, and I think this is true nitpicking, just when looking at the task that was on hand for Monti Ossenfort and the mess that he had to clean up roster-wise, was he didn't really seriously address the defensive line and the cornerback spot, where I thought they were severely undermanned. They rode way too long with a guy like Marco Wilson, who they, before the end of the season, just said take a hike. But I mean, that's where I think if they could have had at least little leveled up players, and I know you've said this before, if they just had a little bit better personnel at those positions, look at how competitive they were even without that, and the liabilities that they had up front, like they could have been way more competitive than they were this season. But you can only address so much when you're trying to clean up the mess left by Steve Keim.
They had a goal in mind. They didn't want to come into this year with anything lingering, and they accomplished that goal. DeAndre Hopkins is officially off their books. They don't have any bad contracts. Isaiah Simmons is gone. Marco Wilson is gone. I mean, this roster turnover, I can't wait to do a deep dive after free agency and the draft. The amount of Steve Keim holdovers are going to be very slim. Don't let your wallet or your betting wallet get slim. Check us out. Our friends at BetMGM, Bet 5, get 158 instantly. I'm going to tell you right now, let's go with a 4-teamer parlay this weekend. I'm going to pick every game. $5, 158 instantly, parlay action. I'm going to go chalk. I'm going to go favorites. I like Buffalo, Baltimore. We're taking the money line, folks. We're not taking the spread. Baltimore, Buffalo. I think after last week's a bunch of upsets, I think the favorite's going to win this week. San Francisco big, unfortunately, and I think Detroit handles Baker Mayfield and company. 4-leg parlay, bet $5, get 158 instantly with our friends at BetMGM. If you're a new customer, what are you waiting for? $5 via your iOS, Android, or BetMGM.com. And again, if you win, you get your payout plus the 158. If you lose, 158 in bonus bets is yours to do what you want. But do it with our friends at BetMGM. It's the bonus code PHNX. Tell them PHNX Cardinals sent you. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my guys, Shane Diefenbach's replacement, Damon Dog, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Damon Dog taking over that for Shane is like Monty taking over for Steve Keim. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's an upgrade. You guys are crushing in the chat. We got some super chats coming your way, but I want to acknowledge this one. Guillermo.
Yeah.
Guillermo from Brazil, watching all the way from Brazil, always on my AirPods while I work. Love the podcast. What do you guys think about moving Paris to left tackle? Safe with it. Go Cards. It's really going to come down to, it's going to come down to, how this offseason goes. I mean, Paris Johnson was studying the work of Lane Johnson, who was drafted started at right tackle, stayed at right tackle. And in this day and age, you need both. You need the bookends, right? And left tackle, no doubt about it. Can't discount how important it is. But the Arizona Cardinals they're going to have to find a tackle of some sort. I don't think they're going to roll with Kelvin Beachum as a starter going forward without DJ Humphries. And if you are going to move Paris Johnson Jr., this would be the offseason and this would be the season to do it. But then you would have to account for the right tackle position. And I mean, they're going to be very much in on tackles this offseason in some capacity. And I think that Paris Johnson Jr. and what he did over there with Will Hernandez, I wouldn't mind seeing that continue, but I understand the importance of the left tackle position, the blind side of Kyler Murray, and how you might want to start that right now.
Do you think it's harder and more important to have a quality left tackle or right tackle? What's more valued in the NFL?
Well, yeah, left tackle.
Okay, so the Cardinals, knowing that, spent not only the 12th overall pick, but pick 34 last year to trade up. Do you do that for a right tackle? You might, but I think, to Bo's point, I think he's going to take reps at left tackle. Kelvin Beachum's played right tackle before, and then I think you draft the heir apparent to Kelvin Beachum at right tackle at pick 27 or 35. Maybe you sign somebody in free agency. The Humphries injury changed everything because I think they would have very much been content with running that back probably. Mm-hmm. But you spent premium resources. Let's make Paris a left tackle and go find a right tackle.
Yeah. Talk about left tackles, they're franchise players. Some Burrow's my franchise go-to spot to eat. I mean, it's right there. My wife and I, my son, we're at Some Burrow's once a week. We already stopped there on Monday on the holiday, had some delicious food. Wife's always getting the number 9, the 2 tacos, shredded beef, beans and rice. It's delicious. I always mix it up. I went with the tostada and the folded taco. My son, he's getting the Niños quesadillas. You got the mini chimmies. Their menu, it's deep, it's impressive. It's going to be the 2024 Arizona Cardinals roster when it's all said and done. And it's Arizona's most loved Mexican restaurant. We love it. It's the number 1 seed in our family. Some Burrows, check it out. Make it your number 1 seed. They got new locations: Goodyear, Peoria on the west side, I-17 and Joe Max. Visit someburrows.com to find a Some Burrows near you. So I was thinking about, Johnny, before we get off the Monti subject, I thought there were 3 key moments of the Monti Ossenfort era so far that stand out to me.
Okay.
And I think number 1 was the hiring of Jonathan Gannon, and we established that, right? How important it was. It's the culture changer, right, that they needed. And they're the GM, head coach combo that are in lockstep as far as team building, organizational building. And I think it's a great duo. Next, I think the wheeling and dealing on the 2023 draft really set himself up for success this offseason and what they're going to be able to do as far as infusing this roster with young talent. And, if it weren't for the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud being one of the best rookie quarterbacks of all time, if not the best, well, statistically he is, the Arizona Cardinals would be sitting even prettier with their draft capital, but already still have a haul and do some damage. And then the third on this, and it also goes into what I just said as far as setting themselves up for success, is the releasing of DeAndre Hopkins. Because DeAndre Hopkins, if you look at all kind of the exiles from the previous team, DeAndre Hopkins was the only guy that was worth a shit this season. Like, DeAndre Hopkins proved what you and I thought was he still had a lot left in the tank. And was
a good year.
Was the big playmaker for the Titans all season long. And that was the only one that really kind of stung, but it was a necessary evil to cut him pre-June 1st, get that contract off the books, get to roll over $10 million of extra cap going into this offseason, and being able to really do anything you want as far as cap spending this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, 1,100 yards, just under 14 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns with Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill. I mean, we knew that was going to hurt. Like, you don't release DeAndre Hopkins and become a better football team. And I think what doubled down on that pain was Hollywood Brown's kind of implosion this year, injury-wise. I mean, so you really had nobody outside of Trey McBride at the end of the year, and then Michael Wilson, thankfully, in the last 2 games that you could count on as a pass catcher. And then, of course, our boy Greg Dortch that was hampered by playing time. I just feel like that was probably one of the toughest days to do this show last year, when we subsequently got the news that DeAndre Hopkins was not only off the team, but he was cut. They just cut him from financial reasons. And so, thankfully, moves like that are in the rearview mirror, ripping off the Band-Aid. And now instead of subtracting, they can add. And they're going to add. Let's get to some of these super chats. Mike, $5. Much love, Johnny. No worries, my man. I speak for Cardinal fans and saying Kliff gets hired by Chicago. We need to beat the dog shit out of the Bears. I think that's going to happen. And I want Kliff Kingsbury. We're going to talk about Kliff here in a second.
Yeah.
I like Kliff Kingsbury. He's a likable person. And I think he's a better OC than a head coach. Kliff Kingsbury in Chicago with Caleb Williams, that is a combustible situation, especially with Eberflus. But I would want a front row ticket to that. But thank God that's not my franchise, Bo.
No. Are we getting into the Kliff conversation now?
Yeah, let's just do it now.
Yeah.
Let's get to this next super chat and then we'll do
Okay.
it. Rise Up 21, $4.99. Bo, when do the NFLPA grades come out this year? And how much of an improvement do you expect from last year's grades? Thanks, guys. Thank you, Rise Up.
They addressed a lot of the failing grades that they received. They got from two non-students, Johnny and myself, F- is something we never even saw, and we weren't exactly scholars. We are gentlemen, but we're not scholars. Nobody's accused us.
We have degrees somehow, some way.
Yeah,
but the bare minimum.
When those came out when we were at the combine last year, and I don't know if it's the same timeline, but I would expect it's something that the NFLPA is going to consistently do, because what did it do? It produced results. It produced the Arizona Cardinals getting into action, getting off their ass, and really making changes to their facility. I think they didn't have a daycare section on game day, and you can spot it when you're going through the bowels of State Farm Stadium.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Made sure that they fixed up their indoor practice facility. They got, state-of-the-art lighting and turf in there, so they were able to utilize that when they needed to. And I'm sure we didn't get a glimpse of the gym that was so infamous in that report where they call it a health hazard, but I would only assume that they did. But what they were doing, they made some tweaks to their cafeteria as well, and hopefully they took players having to pay for meals while they're at the facility working out of the equation. But they made tweaks, and I got to imagine that more moves are coming. And that's what you have to do as an NFL organization. You got to keep up with the Joneses, and you can't have, a locker room that was renovated in like 2015 in 2023. You can't have that. You've got to keep up and stay almost from an innovative standpoint or like a brand new standpoint to keep millionaires happy and to keep the playing field even when you're negotiating and trying to bring players in where other teams like the Vikings have state-of-the-art facilities.
Yeah, and the Cardinals don't yet, so they have to pick up the tab in other areas. I'm still working to get it sourced. It's on people's radar. Like, the clock is ticking now. When do the Cardinals have revamped locker rooms? And we got word from Kyle Odegaard, Compare.bet, from him and some other sources. They're moving all of the administrative workers from the Tempe location across the street. Mm-hmm. So that's getting housed and more an emphasis on football relations. So kind of separating those two entities. They need to upgrade. Like Phoenix, the Valley, it's a beautiful area. It's a destination city. Like, my family aspired to move here, right? As did yours, Bo. Like, we want to be here. The Cardinals facility needs to reflect that. Don't ride on the coattails of this being the fastest growing, economic climate in the country, which it is. Match them at eye level. Live up to what people think. Because why does Minnesota have to go all out? Because it's Minnesota. I mean, I like Minnesota. I have friends there, but it's frigid cold. There's not nearly enough as much to do as like Phoenix and some of these other areas. So you better be up to snuff. And I give Minnesota, personnel or administrative staff, ownership credit for that. But the Cardinals locker room needs updating. And I think every offseason, it's not going to be wholesale changes. They will implement 1 to 5 things, and there'll be a better franchise for it. I want to get into Kliff, but you'll be a better, husband, wife, whatever, if you go to Gila River Resorts and Casinos this offseason. I'm going to tell you right now, my wife, not a fan of smoky, kind of claustrophobic casinos. I took her to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. It was like we were transported to a 5-star hotel in Las Vegas. And it's right here in the Valley, in the greater Phoenix area. Nobody does it better. It is on par, Gila River Resorts and Casinos, if you guys haven't checked it out, with one of the best premier sports books in all of Vegas, and it's in Phoenix. Perfect chance to dabble. this offseason right now. 800 slot machines, 15 blackjack tables, live table games. And again, Arizona's largest casino sportsbook. It's awesome. We had an opportunity to do all of our home broadcasts from the sportsbook across the way at the Top Golf. It's fantastic. Loved every second of it. The dining ranges, from upscale to super approachable. They've got rooftop. It's 74 degrees. Check it out. They've got a steakhouse. Grab a cocktail. Hang out by the pool during pool season. I'm going to tell you, if you have not checked out Gila River Resorts and Casinos, you are missing out. One of my favorite places to visit now as a staple here in the East Valley, in the Valley period. Check them out at Gila.com for more details.
Yeah, what is it? Achieve legendary status. Achieve legendary status in your own home by upgrading your flooring today with our friends over at Empire Today. We love Empire Today. They make shopping for flooring easy. It's not a painstaking activity that some other companies make it out to be. It's actually quick. It's convenient. It's the best place to get new flooring. You're looking for carpet. You're looking for flooring. We've got brand new flooring in the big studio out there. It's fantastic. When Johnny's in studio, he almost wants to get down and break dance on it like the old school, high school days of Johnny Venerable. But if you're looking for easy, quick, convenient, and speed up your service with quality service, Empire Today is the only place you need to look for new flooring. Go to empiretoday.com/PHNX and you're on the way to saving $350 off new floors. That's empiretoday.com/PHNX for $350 off new flooring. Check them out. You will not regret it at all.
I'll tell you what the Bears might regret is hiring Kliff Kingsbury as their next offensive coordinator. This is from our guy, Adam Schefter, saying former Cardinal head coach Kliff Kingsbury, a senior offensive analyst and QB coach. He doesn't even call the plays. He's not even the offensive coordinator. I didn't know that. At USC is expected to interview for the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator job per sources. Our guy Jordan Schultz had this as well. Kingsbury's USC QB Caleb Williams is expected to receive strong consideration to become the Bears' #1 overall pick. Now, you can look at this from a couple different angles, Bo. Are they doing their homework on Kliff Kingsbury? Yes. Are they also doing their homework on Caleb Williams? Double yes. I don't know if he's a serious candidate for this job. Listen, Kliff Kingsbury is a nice guy. He was always friendly to me. I know you and him had a good relationship. What are you doing with your face? I don't know. I don't know what that face is.
I mean, this entire breakdown. I mean, it's hilarious to me. Keep going.
Yeah, he's a good person. Like, he's a nice guy. He's not a jerk. I know people, and I'm probably guilty of this too, correlate Kliff with Keim, and Keim was poison, and he was not good to other people. Yeah. Kliff Kingsbury is a nice dude. Should he be an NFL head coach? Probably not.
Right.
He's better suited to be an OC. That being said, if I'm Caleb Williams and I'm trying to have success at the NFL level, this ain't it. Especially when you consider the quarterbacks that are succeeding in the NFL right now and the scheme right now. Everybody should be running a version of the Kyle Shanahan offense, which is what the Cardinals run with Drew Petzing. The 4 and 5 receiver sets get your young quarterback killed. They regress. And so I like Kliff Kingsbury. This is not a winning formula at all if you're the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, or otherwise.
When I saw that Kliff Kingsbury was interviewing for the Bears OC job, I went and looked at what the response was, and I can't believe it. There's like a ton of pro Kliff Kingsbury propaganda going on right now, especially in Chicago. And I couldn't believe it. I was floored by it. Like, time does heal all wounds. And Kliff Kingsbury is like the elite, like, wagon hitcher. Like, he hitches himself to a winning ticket wagon, like, better than anybody else in the landscape of sports. It's unbelievable. But, like, is there an organization out there that can talk itself into a player or coach more so than the Chicago Bears, from what we've seen with the Justin Fields saga to now, like, Kliff Kingsbury? You got blog sites, you got reporters, you got people who follow the Bears, root for the Bears, that are talking themselves into that Kliff Kingsbury is their best option, maybe the best option for them at the offensive coordinator position. It's unbelievable to me. Like, I get the outside allure of a Kliff Kingsbury. He's still relatively young. He's worked with some really impressive quarterbacks that he's put himself in a position to work with. But when you, like, really break it down and you look at the lack of success as far as maybe those offenses and especially the team, And at the end of the season, like you can't discount it any longer. Like it's like Taylor Swift, whoever Taylor Swift dates, or like Taylor Swift, like you see the allure there. She's beautiful, she's talented, but then she's got a new beau every other 6 months, right? And there's something off there. There's something off there. And I think with Kliff Kingsbury, he hitches himself to some really rock solid wagons, including Kyler Murray. But, from Patrick Mahomes to Johnny Manziel to Kyler himself to now Caleb Williams, he puts himself in these positions to, get an inexplicable head coaching gig that he had for 4 seasons. And you saw that slowly, and sometimes it speeds up, things fall apart. Like the lack of accountability and the lack of adjustments, it kills him at the end. It torpedoes his ability to be successful. Like Kliff Kingsbury, like he lets people do whatever they want to, like a dangerous fault. I mean, you watch the Johnny Manziel documentary, you watch Hard Knocks last season when things are spiraling out of control, and the brutal post-game speeches that he gave, and how he tried to rally the team up when they were just absolutely just bottoming out. He couldn't do it, especially when within that organization, they didn't have a lick of accountability. And some guys like Kyler Murray were screaming for it. They wanted that accountability. So the biggest thing, like with Kingsbury too, is like in 2021, when they're 7-0, they're 7-1, the league caught up. And he never made the adjustment back. So you're going to bring him back in this league as a play caller, and I don't think he's learned a damn thing with what went wrong and how to make proper adjustments to be a successful play caller again. I don't care if he's got Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, or whoever a quarterback, Josh Allen, John Elway coming back from the past and playing quarterback again. I just don't think it's possible.
The flip of the script from Bear fans, especially on somebody like Kliff, when I think most people from other fan bases would trash Kyler Murray on a drop of a dime. Who made Kliff Kingsbury at least a competent head coach? It was Kyler Murray. And I think that if I'm Kyler Murray and I'm seeing pro Kliff tweets from Bear fans, I'm thinking I did that, because he did. We know he did.
Yeah.
Like, save for a couple wins with Colt McCoy, Kyler Murray carried Kliff Kingsbury. Like, that's not an opinion. That's factual. That happened.
Yep.
We watched it here in Arizona. Kyler Murray took Kliff Kingsbury in the NFC West with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and took them to the playoffs with 11 wins, with a college offense, playing backyard football. So but what do Bear fans remember? Big plays, touchdowns, Hail Murray, right? DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah. That's what they think of. Oh yeah, those Cardinal teams, they had great offenses. They probably just couldn't stop anybody, and Kyler got hurt. No, it was Kyler Murray with respect to everybody else. So that would be a very detrimental hiring for Caleb Williams' development, just like it was for Kyler. And I think you're hitching yourself to the Titanic anyway. If I saw somebody in the chat say Colin Cowherd, who talks to Kliff Kingsbury directly or indirectly, he wants to be paid like a head coach. If Kliff Kingsbury has options, he doesn't take this job, because Matt Eberflus potentially should and could be fired next offseason. If you're Kliff Kingsbury, why are you saddling? You should be saddling yourself up with Bill Belichick in Atlanta, or somewhere else where somebody has some runway. Like, no one wants this OC job, because Eberflus is going to get canned if they don't. Like, think about the expectations. You're going to draft Caleb Williams, then what? You need to make the playoffs. The ownership is going to say that the Packers just made the playoffs in a rebuilding year. We got to do that too. It's wild. Those are wild circumstances.
Look, I mean, it's going to be sometimes it's still tough for people to differentiate between, who made the Cardinals successful during that tenure. And as you pointed out, it's Kyler Murray. And Caleb Williams has the ability to immediately come in the league and be the offensive rookie player of the year. Yeah. And that's another little point that he can put on his resume, that he can puff his chest out and say, well, yeah, I got, I've had 2 rookie quarterbacks, and both of them are offensive rookie of the years. I helped develop Patrick Mahomes into a first-round prospect and become the best quarterback in the league. Like, he's got the ability to do that. But when you see it and you're following it firsthand, you realize that there's flaws. There's big-time fatal flaws there. And I think it's just tough to overcome. I see, like, there is a difference between being the head coach and just being a play caller. But when you don't hold your players accountable ever, and when you look at the Arizona Cardinals and how offensively they were the most penalized team in the league. Like Eberflus and Kliff Kingsbury, that combination is absolutely brutal. It's not going anywhere. Like they're going to be one of the most flawed teams in as far as them, like I guess playing within the rules and not shooting themselves in the foot. Like the biggest indictment I thought this season, and Kyler Murray did a good job in not roasting the former regime. Like he was very professional about it. But when he had just come back and they asked him what he liked about Drew Petzing's offense, he said he liked having the offensive infrastructure, that he could play within the system. And then when things do inevitably break down, because it's the NFL and it's the top league in the world, that's when he had to go play this, put on the cape and make the superhero plays. He didn't, but I took that as he had to do that all the time under Kliff Kingsbury. And when I watched USC, Caleb Williams was doing that all the time for USC. Yeah. They just put too much on the shoulders of the
athletes. Everybody. That's what it was. It's just, we have the better athletes and we're going to beat you on skill and talent alone. And remember those egregious DeAndre Hopkins route charts? They were horrifying.
Yeah.
Pouring out for DJ Moore. All right. So pouring out for DJ Moore, pouring out for our friends at Circle K, but in the best possible way, because instead of pouring one out, pour it in. Coffee, ice cold fountain drinks. How about a Polar Pop with your boy as a part of the exclusive Inner Circle? Gas has never been cheaper, folks. They have a new free membership program called the Inner Circle at Circle K. Not only are you saving money, saves 3 cents every single gallon you fill up. Save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. I just passed the Circle K. I don't know where you guys are, how much it costs. It was sub $3. Take another 25 cents off that? Heck yeah. Plus, you get every 6 free selection on a Circle K product, pizza, coffee, ice-cold fountain drinks, and more. Load up at Circle K. Join the Inner Circle today by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply. At participating locations, visit CircleK.com for more details.
Desert Financial Credit Union. We love them, right? It's the best credit union you can find here in the Valley of the Sun. It's the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals for more than 84 years. Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to a community and providing financial solutions that make lives better. Check out desertfinancial.com/Cardinals. You can get and represent the Red Sea with the Arizona Cardinals Visa debit card. Show your team spirit. Open a free checking account online. Get that Cardinals Visa debit card. Go to desertfinancial.com/Cardinals to get started.
MP, who's becoming a friend, even though he's a friend of me, with the Chicago Bears, $1.99 super chat. Bears 27, Cardinals 16. We're better in every way. I want you to holster that energy. Let's come back when the over-unders for 2023 are announced, 2024, I should say, for the subsequent teams in the NFC. I would imagine that the Cardinals and Bears are going to be very close, and the Cardinals are going to have a franchise-proven quarterback, and the Bears are going to be starting a rookie. So just maybe table that. Plus, there are 2 teams in that division that are in the divisional round, in the Packers and the Vikings. I'm ready to pronounce MP that the Cardinals will have a higher over-under next year.
Is MP going to change his avatar when Justin Fields gets dealt?
I think that's just, that's an evergreen avatar. Okay. We'll change it. He might be a Steeler. I saw somebody today say that Kenny Pickett, they're bringing competition in. Mike Tomlin said that. Perfect place for Justin Fields. That's the perfect place.
Better in every way. Is that right? Is that what he said? And the Cardinals were rebuilding. And what was the win total for the Bears this season? Did they cash that?
The over-under was 7.5. Would they go 8-9 or 7-10? I think they went 7-10.
Justin Fields was an MVP candidate before the season.
Yeah, he was.
According to Bears fans.
He won 11 games in 3 years. Goodbye, Justin. Goodbye to all of you, but not permanently. So here's what we're going to do. Every single Thursday, probably this offseason, we're going to treat you and our diehards. The conversation continues in the PHNX Cardinals exclusive member Discord. So this is what you got to do. I had people ask me, what do I need to do, Johnny? You got to become a diehard. So right now, on your phones, your mobile device, on your desktop computer, go to gophnx.com, sign up to become a diehard, pick up a free hat and or shirt every single year, and then pop in. Bo and I are going to do an open Q&A right now with Damon Dog in the diehard with GoPHNX.com's PHNX Cardinals diehard, the exclusive member Discord, Bo. Anything's on the table. You guys come off mute, ask us whatever you want. Let's do it, Bo.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's fire it up. Let's get out of here. Thanks to everybody that participated in the chat today, even those who are staunch Bears supporters. Everybody's invited to have this conversation, debate. It's Cards community, NFL community. So we appreciate everybody interacting with the show. It continues on social media at PHNX_Cardinals, on Twitter and Instagram. Johnny Venerable, Damon Dog, Bo Brack. Follow us into the member Discord. The show continues there. Have a good rest of your Thursday if you're not joining us.
We all silly like the mayor.